All right. So this is our second one. Mike Carson's here. Let me just start to invite people up. Let's see. Invite co-host. Okay. So we have an agenda and we have a lot of things to talk about. As always, there's nothing boring here. That's for sure. So how everybody's having great. You can raise your hands or give emotions. This is a recorded session. So, hey Mike, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I have
Yeah,
excited for today.
thanks for setting this up.
Sure. I mean, last time we got a lot of great feedback and things. People were making some connections and what was your was there any takeaways from the last Twitter space we did or?
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was good. I think it's something that's worth doing regularly, just to, check in and everybody to, to offer feedback or questions or, just check in with everybody.
Sure. I hope. Let me know if there's an echo on mine or I have to mute when you're speaking. Sometimes my phone is weird, but if it's
Yes, sounds good to me.
Okay, great. I don't know if you have some agenda. I have some points on my list that I think would be nice to talk about. The dot wallet discussion. I don't know. I think that's worth sharing. The funding of core developers. Core development on Handshake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
Opera browser discussions and other browsers, and how it would be another one. Those are my three that I can think of. I don't know if you have others here.
Yeah, I think those are good. I don't have much of an agenda, but I think those are great topics.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess we can get started with the dot wallet. I think that's a hot one, especially last week. I could share my interpretations of it. The dot wallet TLD is a Handshake TLD. It's not an ICANN. So as far as the Handshake blockchain was programmed or established to do is to auction off in a public auction every TLD that was not in conflict with ICANN TLDs in 2020, starting for the year March 2020 to March 2021. So Wallet was one of those TLDs that was auctioned, and everyone can look it up on the blockchain, but I believe it was 350,000 HNS it sold for or auctioned off for, in which those funds go to basically are burned on the blockchain, right? They don't go to any centralized group. And Scott was the winner of the auction. He's not a very public person. He prefers his privacy. Just wants the project and the TLD to do well. And he never launched the SLDs on it. I think he was waiting, like many I talked to, are waiting for a DSLD or decentralized SLD solution for Handshake TLDs that are a little bit more easy. I know, Mike, you've done it with a couple TLDs now, Badass and Forever. But I think for most, it's still not really at the level of plug and play where a Handshake TLD can become a decentralized SLD on Ethereum or Polygon or other blockchains. So I think, I don't know the exact motivation, but I think he was just tired of seeing dot wallet on UD maybe. He didn't tell me that, but I felt like he was just a little bit maybe frustrated or didn't want to keep waiting either for DSLDs or his own application to be done. And he approached me and others that he wanted to just release it. He talked to Gateway.io to be the registry and registrar of dot wallet, and his idea was to just let it go, like let it be sold. He didn't take any proceeds as a TLD owner of the sales of dot wallet, and he there was a little bit of confusion about the dollar. He told me $1, but that was the registry price, not the registrar price. We're all, at least me and many in the Handshake ecosystem, are learning the differences here. but it ultimately came out for $1.99 on Gateway Registrar for the end consumer, and then many, of course, jumped on that opportunity to grab a dot wallet for $1.99. And is that the right? Is there anything I'm missing? I mean, I think that was the basically, and then we launched July 4th. It was his plan, and then it launched. And of course, there got some
Yeah.
different feedback here. People can raise their hand. We can invite others on stage. But is that about right, Mike? Is that kind of?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess. I mean, I think, yeah, the combination of a lot of people registering dot wallet on Handshake, that along with Unstoppable Domains selling dot wallet, kind of led to the first real, I guess battle of a top level domain type of thing. Unstoppable really wants their dot wallet to be the only wallet, but it's. I actually had a call with Brad Cam. He called me. I guess because there's a lot of, on Twitter, there's a lot going on. People are saying how many registrations there were of dot wallet and stuff. So he called me and, he wanted me to take it down, but I told him James runs it now. So I think he talked with James. But I mean, I could tell he seemed a little, from his perspective, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes, because and this is what James says. He's built his house on sand, and I think that's pretty accurate because it's lacking a root zone. It's just an orphan TLD, and it's so fragile because anybody could launch that. I could launch 1,000 dot wallets tonight that aren't anchored in any root zone. So I think it's the fragileness of that has him worried, and which is why he's threatened lawsuits and stuff like that to James. So yeah. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out with everything. I mean, it's who a lot more, before it used to just be ICANN, just ICANN. I mean, there's a few other alternate root zone things, but now it's really becoming, it's going to come to a head at some point, and who's gonna. I think Handshake is in a really good spot because it's better than ICANN in a lot of ways, and it's better than all these other projects that don't have a root zone, that aren't anchored in a root zone. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah. Again, we're just trying to educate here. I think people know me, at least. I try to stay somewhat neutral. Of course, I'm obviously more on the Handshake side in many of these. Of course, the other big one is Ethereum, is HNS domains. We've covered them well. We, as Handshake, I believe ENS existed before Handshake blockchain came out. So when the founders of Handshake created the blockchain, they reserved .eth, because that's, I think, why a lot of us, myself included, Handshake is, there was no intention of collisions, it's called in the domain industry. There was no intention of creating collisions in ICANN or in any kind of existing TLDs on the internet. So ETH is reserved. I believe Nick.eth has custody of that, and so that's the reason there's no collision of .eth with ENS domains. I know there's a lot of kind of sometimes competitiveness of ENS domains and Handshake, but I don't know, Mike, if you want to comment on ENS domains, but I see it as complementary. I don't see it as direct competition. Of course, obviously there's some competition in people's, money that they decide to invest in buying a .eth or buying maybe a TLD on Handshake or a SLD on a Handshake TLD, but it's more complementary, where it seems like, and my last point is with Unstoppable, I think Unstoppable issued the dot wallet as well as a whole bunch of others about a year ago. Uh, I believe, I don't know if you want to say it, I believe they were aware that Handshake had these already out. I don't know if you want to add to that, or if you have any insights on that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they have decided not to partake in the Handshake. They're not going to try to get their names that they're selling on Handshake. It seems like they're just not. They're going to try to just try to go their own way. But yeah, for ENS, I mean, ENS is great. We use the software. And they've done really well with .eth. I think it's great. And actually, Beacon web browser, you can resolve .eth names. If you type in humbly.eth on the Beacon browser, it'll resolve. It resolves DNS. So yeah, and you can even set up like secured sites HTTPS with a .eth, which will require no trusted third-party certificate authority. So yeah, it works well. Yeah, I don't see any. I mean, they do have their like own root zone and stuff, and they're trying to do some ICANN stuff. So, and they don't seem particularly like they want to get on the Handshake. Get together. I mean, I think they claimed they got their coin reward when they claimed .eth and they sold it right away. So it seems like, I mean, I don't know. Who knows what they're doing. I'm just speculating here, but it seems like they want to try to be nice with ICANN so they can try to get .eth in some way on in the actual ICANN zone. And they figure that if they're nice with Handshake, then maybe they would have less chance of that. That's just my speculation. I don't know if that's true or not. But yeah, otherwise, ENS is great software. We use it for Forever Domains. We forked it for Forever and Badass. So yeah.
Yeah, I just made a YouTube video on SkyInclude, the YouTube channel I have, and I registered living.forever on Ethereum. So it's very, you can watch it at skyinclude.com/forever if you're curious, or I'll find it on my YouTube. But it's very similar experience to .eth. I've also gotten .eth domains. I've made videos about it, tutorials. Yeah, the experience is very similar. Foreverdomains.io. It's one of your projects at Impervious. Always appreciate. You also, you even open sourced on GitHub your ENS forked, modified version of it, right? I found it somewhere in your GitHub.
Yeah, it's all open source on our GitHub, Impervious GitHub account. I mean, everything we do is open source. So Beacon web browser is open source, and yeah, you can check out the Forever contracts.
Okay, I guess let's take it back to the .wallet topic. And again, people are willing. We're open floor here. If people, I see some great names in the audience. You can, I guess, raise your hand or request, and I'll accept it. Or Anne's also co-host. She'll help assist if I don't see it on my phone. But back to .wallet. So a lot of I do feel a little bit bad for the SLD or domain buyers of .wallet on Unstoppable. I can understand their upset, their frustration. Maybe they just generally didn't hear about Handshake. It doesn't have as big of a marketing effort on like Facebook ads. Maybe I've heard there's a lot of TikTok. I don't use TikTok, but I heard a lot of TikTok influencers or ads about Unstoppable. So they were just a normal customer buying a .wallet. I honestly don't even know the pricing, but some people say they have some pretty high pricing on premium domains. So they're just maybe not fully aware of this Handshake. And then they were also upset on Twitter last week when they said, "Hey, you guys came out a year later than Unstoppable. Why are you guys doing this? That's not cool. I don't really know what Handshake is, but you should have respected Unstoppable's .wallet that was already out for a year." They didn't understand what we just said at the beginning of this call, or I said about the auction of .wallet in 2020 for 350,000 HNS token or coin. they didn't understand that. So I do feel, and they're still being defensive, right? Anybody that invests, I don't know, hopefully they didn't invest more than they could lose. I always recommend people not to get overextended, but maybe they invested quite a bit, and they're upset. Of course, I would be if I had bought a bunch of dot wallets. Now there's another dot wallet, but I think they just didn't understand that this was always the intention of most Handshake owners of TLDs is SLDs in one form, whether it's a username or selling them as SLDs. I do believe Scott, the owner of the TLD, is making an app for people to use it as a wallet, so they'll use their dot wallet username on Handshake to log in and set up their payments and other functions. But yeah, I mean, it is a little bit unfortunate for the general consumer market of this confusion, but I mean, I don't think we should tell Handshake owners of other TLDs, because they also have .nft. Jahan owns .nft. I've actually been talking to him the last week. There's also the .x owner, pretty active on Twitter, of Handshake. He's fully been prepared to sell SLDs of .x on Handshake, and there's others. What are your thoughts? I mean, I guess we just continue on, right, with these other TLDs that are in conflict with Unstoppable?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the founders, didn't include that as they did with .eth, and I mean, I think these other ones, .wallet and stuff, were launched after Handshake, and even after the names were already auctioned on Handshake, I think. I mean, I could be wrong about this, but
yeah, I hear you.
So some people thought that possibly Unstoppable Domains looked at the highest selling auctions on Handshake and then decided to sell those domains. So I don't know. I mean, who knows what it is? But yeah, I think yeah. Go ahead.
I think Derek just came up on.
I want to give some thoughts. Some things I heard, some comments earlier. And this is my own view, and my view is kind of biased to Lumi in my project, but I kind of see this a lot neutral, because my feet are my thesis speaker in several different projects in several different places. Can you hear me still?
Yep, we hear you. I'm just muting it.
Yeah, sorry. My phone just went off, so I wasn't sure if it shut off or not. Shit. Well, there's my fan. So what I was saying is, my piece in several places. So my view on this whole thing and since I'm making a resolver, I try to keep it more common sense and simple. I see two different types of TLDs. One TLD is private TLDs based on Handshake, and the other TLDs are blockchain TLDs. You have things like the ETH.sol, the Algo, AVAX, and those TLDs by nature, ideally the owners will be able to get them on Handshake, but they're kind of need to be respected regardless of the root zone idea. But everything else, it seems that the root zone matters because it's more delegation and just really management. So the root zone matters, but it's more of a network effect and decentralization and the social consensus than anything else. So when people speak of the root zone, I do agree, but I do agree that also that we need to separate the idea of what's a TLD for a blockchain identity, like .algo or .eth, and what's a TLD someone just bought and is wanting to try and make money off of it. And for UD, I obviously agree that they're kind of screwed. And I don't, especially because they're VC ran, but yeah. But that's my input on that, because I just heard about the root anchoring thing, and I do think that's right to an extent, but it does have some exceptions, in my opinion.
Okay, thanks, Derek, for your insights. I know you're a developer. I appreciate your contributions in the community. And so you're saying, like, as a resolver, you're making which Do you mind muting? There's a little background noise.
Sorry, I was taking my fan. I tripped over my power cord and knocked my fan apart.
All right.
And I said, I was walking around and I tripped and you get basically an office fail. So yeah.
I understand.
But the TLDR is that as a resolver, I completely get the wallet thing. I agree with you that I feel bad for the retail people. I understand because like my project's pretty much was basically Web 2 and Web 3. So as an end user, I completely understand. Oh, I just paid $50-$75 for a wallet. Oh shit, I can't use my wallet. No one's supporting it. What the f? I completely get it. But from a macro perspective, I overall see that UD, even if we were in the wrong, I don't really support UD based on the fact that they're VC ran. And fundamentally, you cannot have a VC ran registry, especially one that does lifetime registrations and survive. It's just that simple. Yeah. It's not sustainable. So regardless of anything else, they're eventually going to die because of how they're trying to do things. They're trying to do big ass subsidies with big companies and and even they admit it on Twitter. So their business model, I don't think it's going to work out either way. But yeah, for me as a resolver, will have to take common sense logic about what makes the most sense for the end user. But in the day, it's like it's blockchain. There's blockchain address domains, and then there's private domains. The blockchain domains, we may have like 10, 15, 30, 20 of them in the future. It may reduce down, and some of them, not all the foundations or the founders have their TLD on for their blockchain, and that's going to be an awkward fight until that ever gets resolved. But the private ones, I believe it's going to be coming down to Handshake, because I've even seen cases where people have been trying to do this stuff on their own, and I just see there are always going to be problems. So the private ones, I do think makes the most sense for Handshake to be an authority. Of course, social consensus still applies. But the other ones, anything that represents an actual blockchain, like the ETH, I think we're going to have to work with that, and not to say that just because you don't have your TLD on Handshake doesn't mean that we don't give a shit.
Yeah, well, I think we're all clear. .eth is reserved or is.
Yeah, I'm just using it because it's pretty much what I'm just saying is the original OG example about the principle that's saying that we sort of like if I make an ABC blockchain and people are kind of screwed. And using a maximum ideology for that is not really going to work out well.
I understand, although the other argument is if somebody makes a blockchain next year and they raise money or they do big and then they just issue their own TLD and then I don't know how I feel about that.
That's why I use that as an exception. I own a lot of domains, obviously, as an investor and part of the community, and I have a lot of plans for them. But also, as a developer, I also have to be aware, okay, if someone creates a blockchain, or there's a very big blockchain with a lot of users, because most blockchains are bigger than Handshake right now, and they have a lot of people, and they have funding, and they're doing things, and this community ran. Okay, who do I prioritize? The person squatting on the TLD, or the person actually using the TLD?
I agree. I mean, I'm always a supporter of usage over, obviously just.
Yeah. So for me, there's a lot of criteria there. I have to weigh the facts and just try to use. Okay, what's the idiot common sense logic here versus anything else? And that's really the only time I try to do that is when there's a blockchain domain domain conflicts. Because for example, with Algorand, I told them that I will support Algo, but I won't support anything else unless they own it.
Okay.
It's just like for me personally, I can see just one exception for that, and just it's common sense. But the others, if they want to do that, then they need to actually own it, so there's no BS for the users.
Yeah. I think the general point, though, is I don't think there's going to be, at least maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think there's going to be new issues of TLDs on maybe I'm wrong, but I don't
there might not, but it is something to be aware of. And I guess one of my points was to speaking speaking up was the fact that I don't want to have the ideology or thinking that if you don't have a TLD with Handshake that you're not a real domain registry, because a lot of them will be private, but there are going to be some that are not. They're going to be more of an exception, and I don't want the thinking that people start being hostile to to registry TLD owners that represent blockchains because for whatever reason they don't have it, and so everyone shits on them.
I understand. Yeah, I mean, we hope. I always promote usage over just holding. But I see Paul came up on stage too.
So I guess my point was I just heard about people talking about the root zone and those things having a root zone. I agree to it to an extent, but there are exceptions, and social consensus kind of trumps everything.
Well, that's why I think there's a lot of gifting in Handshake, which a lot of us like to see, and I think a lot of us are trying to get it to the right user, to the end user, or to the right use case. Usually, hopefully.
As long as everyone's happy and then there's no conflicts, that's fine. I guess my big concern is I just don't want everyone to start saying, oh, well, if you don't use Handshake as a root zone, you're not a domain. Like, I don't want there to be and then I don't want people to start going to a maxi toxic mentality about Handshake, about like how some people do Bitcoin with other blockchains. Yeah. And so that's why I just wanted to get my 2 cents on that, because that can go down a very wrong path very quickly and really screw up adoption.
Thank you, Derek. Okay, I really appreciate it. You can hang out on stage, but maybe I see Paul just came up. I'm sure he has some great things to say. He's always got good insights. Paul, you have something to share?
Yeah. So wait, can y'all guys hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
Don't worry.
All right, cool. So from my perspective, the point of this whole wallet drama is severalfold. First of all, you cannot be a business on the blockchain period and expect you to be the only one to ever exist ever. The entire point of blockchain exists so that newer things can be created, because whatever the status quo is, it doesn't work. Ethereum, the blockchain that Unstoppable Domains is on, was created as an answer to Bitcoin. People are like, oh, cool, this is neat, but it doesn't really do what I want to do. I can't really program on top of it. So Ethereum exists. So it's weird to think of a founder of a company building on blockchain wanting to be this central thing that no one else can compete with. It doesn't make sense. It's like another wave of doublethink, and it's befuddling. So that's the first bit. The second bit is, if you're going to go into business, you have to do so with the expectation that you are going to have to figure out how to make your business interesting to customers in order to get them coming back. Being the only one on the scene, oh, cool, that's great. That's not really success. That's just you not having any competitors yet. It's interesting that after a day and some change, that Unstoppable Domains was just whoa, these guys are a threat. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the consumers, the end users, the people who are actually going to use these names, rather than just sell them on OpenSea for ooh, I sold 555.e for blah, 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 or, whatever dumb number thing, .wallet, yay, look at my social cred because I sold this thing and did nothing else with. People are going to go towards something that seems more interesting. And unfortunately for the Unstoppable Domains customers, they're not it. So, that's all I wanted to say on that. It's going to come down to that. People were talking about, what is it, collisions. It's going to happen between Unstoppable Domains and Handshake. There's already a handful. And with Opera integration coming soon, browsers are going to try to figure out how to make that UX and UI make sense when there are collisions and they do support different blockchains. So my advice to the unstoppable folks will be just try to do things better than Handshake if you can, because we're not going to stop what we're doing. So, I mean, good luck, I guess.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, I think most of our people on this Twitter space are on the Handshake side. I'll try my best to be neutral or put a little bit of the other side, but I would say it's also network. Network Statebook just came out. I think a lot of us would like it. It's excuse me on his name, the author, but he was on a Tim Ferriss podcast.
It's a great book.
Yeah, it's a great book. It's big for me at least. It took me a few days of intense reading, but it just came out and it was perfect timing for this case. And I think it's worth highlighting is he talks a lot about network states, which are like he's kind of calling it like blockchain communities or mini countries, and he's saying there's going to be the state, which is the kind of government, versus there's religion, there's state, there's government, and then there's blockchain, which is a new kind of way of building. And it looks like Unstoppable is using the state or government with trying to file trademarks in the US PTO to try to protect their TLDs or their assets or IP, whereas Handshake is not filing with like the US PTO or the government things. It's using the blockchain. So it's really kind of a case of trademarks and governments or web, in my opinion, like Web 2 we can call it, versus like maybe Web 3 or DWeb, which is like blockchain and open, because how can you really sue a blockchain or threaten a blockchain? Yeah, you can try to take down gateway.io and tell James, the guy running it, to stop, but you're not going to really stop the dot wallet from existing on Handshake.
I think that the point about making it better, it's like, how would you rather spend your time? Like suing somebody else to try to stop something that people might want more because it's better? Like trying to stop something that's better? Or do you want to like try to work on something to make something better into like, it's like, I think, Handshake, it's it's in the root zone, so but yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, that's what it comes down to, and that's why I'm working on Handshake and not Unstoppable Domains, is because what I want to do is help the internet become more free, and so it'll become more innovative. I want to open up the TLD space, the root zone, and make it more decentralized, make it free. And so that, that is, so yeah, I think, it comes down to that. That's exactly, it's like, if Unstoppable can find a way to do that, I think, that's how it started. I saw Brad talk at NamesCon like a couple years ago, and, it was all about decentralization. He really wanted it to be, he was against ICANN, and so I think that's how it started. But like, it's just not, you can't even use it for DNS. It's not even really decentralized. It's so. If something comes along that's better than Handshake, I'll switch to that. So that, I think that's, what I agree with what Paul said there.
Okay, we got a few new people coming up on stage, which is great. So we'll try our best to let everyone to share their input. And while keeping us on track, I mean, we got to think of a time frame. We have a couple other topics, but I know this is a popular one. So I see Scott came up, and I see 100.wallet just came up. Scott, you want to say something?
Yeah, hey, long-time listener, first-time caller. I can't code my way out of a paper bag, but I'm a big-time HNS squatter. I've got quite a few names that are pretty sweet that I'm proud of. But I've been with the community for, a couple years, and names are important. So I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. I know that you've got an agenda and some topics, so just cut me off if you want to go some other direction. But there's a lot of things that I'm really interested in. I think, the other Scott he's just a fascinating guy. He's got a lot of gravitas. He's got really solid coding chops, and he's going to figure this out. But there's so many other things that we can do with the Handshake blockchain that are really exciting. And when you look at, Jack Dorsey and, Web 5, and you look at just digital identity, Handshake has got a following that's substantial. I know the market cap is 40 million or whatever it is, 34 million. It's minuscule compared to some of these other blockchains that are out there. But like, I have a small company and we have to use HIPAA compliant software, and I can't use Facebook or Google for anyone to log into. But I spend a big part of my day helping people with their passwords or just logging in. There's some virgin soil out there that hasn't been really worked. And I heard someone earlier talking about it from a business perspective. And names are really important, but really they're just the tip of the spear when it comes to decentralized apps and some of the things that we can do. And I think we have a real opportunity with the amount of force that we've built up with this community, the amount of people and the interest, and some of the big name, Sequoia and some other people that are behind it. I think we have a real opportunity to look at digital identity, and especially just kind of, that DID level, login level. Names are one thing, but there's so much more out there. I'd love to hear from people that are kind of out there working in the wild and this sort of stuff, to see if Handshake is a, sturdy enough blockchain to look at enterprise level logins.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Yeah, there's a lot of, it's a decentralized community, which is beautiful, and there's a lot of different developers here. There's also a Discord from the HNS fund that I would recommend joining if you're not already, that has quite a few developers. I know Paul's pretty active, Derek's in there. I'm in there. I try my best to be active, but there's a lot of that's probably what I would say is one of the better places to go to see what's being developed and talk to the developers.
Yeah, I'll check that out. Thank you.
I can't remember the URL. If somebody wants to shout that out or link it. But Derek, do you have some points here?
You mind if I give a comment?
Yes, please.
The biggest problem I see with UD overall is the fact that, and it's just kind of a trend that you mentioned, that the founder was originally for decentralization. What I really see them turning into is just a Web 2 company who got bought out by VCs, and now it's trying to pay browsers to integrate to create things, and FAANG sandbox. That's really like a couple of months ago I started noticing this, just with trying to talk to different people, and some people gave me cold shoulders, and I'm just seeing that what's really happening is you have VCs that didn't blow up, at least, trying to rebuild big tech in Web 3, and Web 3 is Web 2, and I think UD is a part of that. Solana's name service is a part of that, and there's at least one other, an Algorand I know of, that's a part of that. And so that's the big problem. You have everyone who gets VC involved with names are going to be shipped to decentralization, and even if they wanted to be pro-decentralization, the money is making them say, do this, or we'll defund you probably, or we want our money back, etc. And so that's really where I'm seeing overall what's happening, which is why I'm not really a fan of VCs being involved, because, well, we see what Handshake can do, and then we're seeing what UD is doing. There's a big ass difference there.
Okay, thanks for that insight, Derek. There's a couple new people on stage that also I'd like to see if they have some Namer Tips is always sharing great stuff on Twitter and Discord. Do you have some points you want? And then 100 emoji.wallet. If you're here, you can share too.
Yes, greetings everyone. Am I able to be heard?
Yes, please.
Okay. I just want to go ahead and drop something in the conversation, because I think that lately we can all agree that the unstoppable fiasco with the dot wallet, it's been a lot. But I think that there's been a missed opportunity to emphasize 4 key things, and that's marketing, it's education, it's distinction, and it's adoption. And for those that didn't catch it, one more time: marketing, education, distinction, and adoption. I think that we have to keep in mind that
unstoppable, regardless of what you may feel about their outlook on the technology or anything of that nature, whom they're affiliated with, venture capital firms and so on. We live in a world where in many pockets, marketing reigns supreme. It's almost like a superpower. And with that being said, regardless of what's established and what's new and what's better, that's going to be something that has to be taken into consideration with regard to how everyone perceives adoption should be approached and considered and when it should take place and so on and so forth. And then that leans into education. Education is very, very important. It's easy to go ahead and have the debates about what is better, but it's an art to education. And I'm pretty sure that there are many individuals that are in the listening space of this particular space, and they can agree. It's an old saying that says, pay attention to the message and not the messenger. And just kind of seeing how things have transpired with regard to the dialogue on Twitter about, how Unstoppable functions and how Handshake functions and ENS, it's been a bit unsettling to watch. And it seems like a lot of the discussion has been lacking the education that it deserves for all of the different naming spaces. And that leads to the next point, which is distinction. Distinction in this case, for those who have been following some of our posts on Twitter, we've been emphasizing utility being distinction. Now, I'm pretty sure we on this side, we don't claim to be developers and coders and know-it-all. We're kind of like the speculative group that offers an educational standpoint with some of our own experiences tied in. But distinction is going to be key. Use case. You hear a lot of individuals reference what you can do with an unstoppable domain, what you can do with an ENS domain. And I think ultimately, regardless of what side you are on with regard to the naming space that you endorse or that you support, please keep in mind that utility is important. And that's just, from our standpoint, that's going to be one of the key elements of distinction. So you might have a dot wallet over here with Unstoppable. You might have a dot wallet with Handshake. You might have a dot wallet with ENS and so on and so forth. But we are firm believers that the end user, the consumer, however you define them, will eventually, as the adoption grows and the use cases come about, they'll be able to go ahead and distinguish, and it won't be so much about the confusion of the words per se. And I know that I'm really reducing it, so pardon that. But when you look at it at the core, it's like, there's dot wallet and there's dot wallet. So the use case is going to be a really distinctive, distinction element. So the last part is the adoption. Adoption, everybody wants it. And I'm going to be honest with you. When you look over there at Unstoppable, it seems that the adoption is there and people are picking up. I understand the sentiment with regard to individuals investing. It's a real slippery slope, and there's a lot of dynamics that we have to consider. But for the sake of everyone's growth and prosperity, I just want you all to keep in mind that marketing is not the entity. It's not the enemy. So, we can take a little bit from where we see things being marketed. Please educate. Please. That cannot be overstated. Please educate the crowd that is listening, those who are not listening. Do your best. It's anybody who's a teacher and who's familiar with education knows it's an uphill battle when you're trying to onboard a student and get them, to understand what's really happening. Distinction, be distinctive. You guys don't have to fight. Everybody has beautiful projects. And then adoption will come. These types of forums are helping pave the way to that. That's kind of what we wanted to go ahead and drop in on that note.
It's really, really, we all appreciate your insights and your tweets. So definitely follow Namer Tips if you're not already. Constantly sharing great information. I saw Scott on mute for a second too, and Derek. And there's a couple of people came up on stage.
Well, this is Scott, so I'm just going to jump in. Cut me off if you need to. I'm not offended. So that was great. Namer Tips, if that is your real name. That was really good stuff. So here's the thing. Unstoppable domains, we heard a lot of criticism for big corporate America or whatever. Marketing is a superpower, no question. So it costs money. And the Unstoppable domains and everyone else is just buying a lot of advertising and they're paying influencers. So if we've got people who want to do that for Handshake, please do. I mean, that's fantastic. Or we can start crowdfunding ourselves and put together a platform that we could do the same thing. I know that we've knocked on a lot of doors and made a lot of calls and tried to get on some other highly we've been on. I've seen Handshake all over, the Twitter world and everywhere else. But we can also do some formal stuff, which might help kind of elevate that. So, marketing, not the bad guy. I don't think necessarily, big corporate machines are necessarily the bad guy. They're the ones that are ultimately going to get things over the finish line and get big projects done. Small projects are cool, but the reality is when we get, some big, we get Google, we get into Chrome, some, aspects like that, that's a major game changer for the entire blockchain. So, that stuff costs money, and if we're willing to, elbow grease counts, but if we put together a fund, we can all, look at marketing and do that in a way that's equitable to everybody and makes sense, because everyone's going to have their own opinion about where it should go and what it should do, but that can make a big splash. Another thing is these other apps, like looking at let me just try to reset my password. Interesting. Looking at other apps, I think the Logon app would give us a lot of insight too. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you. That's great insight. Well, actually, it's going to go into our second point, which is funding. So it seems like there's a few people bringing it up. We will talk about it in the next point. Morbius, I see you. You're new here on stage. I'd love to, if you have some points.
Thank you, Michael. I wanted to add to Mike's great point about the importance of the root zone, and I think what I didn't hear until now is I find it kind of ironic that a company chooses the name Unstoppable Domains, and then they run to the government and say, hey, please help us to enforce this monopoly of ours, instead of just relying on the, showing or establishing themselves as a superior product. If I were, for instance, a developer in Ukraine or in Russia, and imagine like a Ukrainian developer and a Russian developer, they may not like each other or they may hate each other, but I find it fascinating that Handshake allows this, creates a space for two competing or hostile entities to share a space and don't like I find it it's so exciting to me, because neither the Ukrainian developer nor the Russian developer, they don't need to run to their governments, because the Russian government may say, fuck the United States, I don't care about your copyrights. And the Ukrainian may say the same thing about Russia. So, but the beautiful thing is, we don't have to have this fight. And I don't think this like structures like these, they should be neutral. And if developers want to set up their businesses, they should like creating apps and creating value is difficult like without these hostile actions. It's already difficult, and people should not have to deal with this bullshit. So I find it really kind of ironic that the centralized VC fund company, first thing they do is to run to I've seen they ran to the United States government, to the Canadian government, and try to steal this, basically sneak in these copyright protections to establish themselves as superiors. So I love that Mike brought this point up, and I wanted to contribute to it. Thank everybody for coming today.
Awesome, great. It's really great to hear that. Well, Mike Carson, do you want to respond to that, or?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I agree. It's Handshake is about opening up the internet, making it more free, and getting around the And I'm not saying it's definitely going to be Handshake. I mean, I work on Handshake every day and I invest in it because I think it is, but something's going to come that's going to open up the internet and make it more free and get around.
Okay, it might be me. I'm not hearing anything. It might be me.
Getting those things out and so on and so forth. The point that I was getting ready to follow up with is the IP discussion, which is one part that a lot of individuals haven't spoken on. They've spoken on the trademarks, and that's one part of it, but that's a branch of IP protection. Now, we're not getting into the the legality of it, or the government side of it. We'll leave that for a whole nother discussion. But there are benefits that come with copywriting and trademarking things. And if we, as a community, regardless of whether it's Handshake, ENS, Unstoppable, if that's an entirely different battle, because atop the TLDs and the SLDs will be content. And we're all for free range creativity, but we're also for creatives having the right to protect the things that they offer to the world. And in no way are we endorsing the copyright and trademark and patent systems of any particular jurisdiction. But what we're saying is that when the trademark dynamic of Unstoppable's business plan or approach is addressed, we just have to be very mindful not to villainize the whole idea of protection of intellectual rights in general, because there's a lot of creativity flowing around in this space, and there will be segments of the space where there is free range creativity and everything can be exchanged and enjoyed without boundary. But then there will be other sectors where artists and creatives and businesses, rightfully so, will want to protect the things that they introduce into the space, and they shouldn't have to be met with contention because of their choice to do that. So again, we're not taking one side or the other with regard to that, but that's where the education comes in, not just about the TLDs and the SLDs or educating the end user, but this is about everyone elevating their understanding of a lot of the systems that they may have heard about in passing, or they only got the tail end of details about. Everyone has to go ahead and enrich. It would be, not everyone has to, but it would be beneficial for everyone to enrich themselves regarding how trademarks and copyrights work and things of that nature, because the very thing that you might be in opposition to might be something that benefits you down the road or in some shape, form, or fashion. And again, we're not saying that every system is perfect. There's a lot that needs to change, but please, let's not void out intellectual property rights protections and things of that nature. That's all.
Okay, thanks, Narratives. All right, I'm still trying to get some great people back here. They'll maybe take a little bit longer, but Noel, you're up here. Do you want to share? Also, NamesCon. Actually, we're gonna chat about that soon. Do you want to share some things?
Yeah, I can give a quick shout out to NamesCon. Thanks for having me up here, Mike. Hello, all directors of Handshake. It's awesome to see all of you. I just wanted to give a quick, shout out to NamesCon. Whether you can attend in person, it's going to be in Austin, Texas, here at the end of August, early September. It's going to take place over 3 days. NamesCon hasn't been in person in a couple years. I've been to NamesCon twice, just over the past year and a half, and is always online. I think it's going to be really great to, be in person, be able to hang out with, a lot of fans of Handshake in person, but then also at the same time, it's been mentioned like we need to do more marketing, namer tips as part of that, with doing more of the education piece. Well, my view is, Unstoppable Domains is focused really on the speculator, right? They do all kinds of ads on Twitter, Facebook. They're spending millions of dollars on marketing. My focus, it's a little bit different. It may be radical, but my whole goal is to take over the domain industry. I think that is more important than convincing speculators right now, because if we can infiltrate and have the domain industry on our side, then we can kind of go to those end consumers at the end of the day. I think of course, we need to create real world value, and that's why we have a lot of developers and nerds in the house. And I'm a nerd, I'm not a developer, but at the same time, we really need the domain industry on our side. We have Michael Seiger here, the best domain educator in the world. We need, credible people like that to be able to lead the way. I mean, Mike Carson, has been involved, in the domain industry for quite a long time. And of course, his heart is with Handshake and everything, but we need to have the domainers on our side. So with that, HTX is going to be a proud sponsor of NamesCon. We have a few other ones from the Handshake community that are going to be sponsors of NamesCon. Whether or not you want to donate to the cause, just be like a mini sponsor, I can give you a shout out during the Handshake sessions that we have. Or if you want to be an official partner with NamesCon, just reach out to me. I'll be happy to, hook you up or have you involved in whatever way that you want to see fit. My whole goal is for this to kind of be like a second HandyCon, if you will.
Awesome.
And that's all for me, unless anybody has any questions.
We can take questions. It also kind of connects to the second, I guess we'll move to the second part of the agenda was .wallet and then funding for core development or just funding for the project in general. I know there's been some discussions we can share about, but yeah, definitely support NamesCon. I'll be, I'm working as best I can to support. I can't make it, unfortunately. I would love to go in person, but yeah, I mean, we'll be helping. I think we're going to also do a Flamingo Handshake auction in a couple weeks, July 26th or 7th, that will also have some of the proceeds. We don't want to maybe force everything to go there. We still like the idea of the seller choosing which fund or place to have the funds go, but I think some of the names, I think you have some great names, some other people have some great names, so that'll also be another way to contribute to the NamesCon sponsorship for Handshake at large. All right.
That'd be great. Thanks, Mike. And yeah, I'm all about choice and everything. We should always, the Handshake community should always choose where funds go. And just to let y'all know, with .tx and everything, all the proceeds I've gotten, over the past year, have gone directly into marketing and spreading the word, having meetups, sponsoring NamesCon, and all of that. And so, even though it's not that much right now, we all need to do what we can in whatever unique way that is. But thanks, Joe.
Yeah, that's
I'll
great.
hang back and listen.
All right.
Can I quickly clarify a few points?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry again about the disconnection. My phone overheated or something, so excuse me for that.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on a few things. Neymar Tips made a few good points. Namely, what I really meant was the blockchain has a huge impact on what you can actually enforce. You can't expect someone in Ukraine or Russia to respect what some government says they are or are not allowed to do. If I were a Ukrainian or Russian developer and the United government would tell me, hey, please stop selling .wallet domains on your blockchain, I would be like, fuck off, dude. Like, who are you? I don't respect your authority. So from that point of view, that's why I believe in the values of Handshake, because it allows, it establishes a root zone, and if you own the trademark, and I'm very happy that the founders reserved Nike, Adidas, Gucci, Versace. I do respect copyright laws and trademarks, but what I meant is when a company, VC established company with a huge amount of money, not only buys itself through marketing and influencers, they are trying to grab the dominance, not through honest competition, but they are running to the government and saying, oh, please help us to get a monopoly. And that's what I don't respect. But I do respect copyright, and I do respect trademarks and all of that. That's what I wanted to clarify.
Okay. Thank you, Morbius.
Well, that reminded me of this is just a quick little off-topic story, but it reminded me of talking about Ukraine and Russia and everything. Zipkin told me this. North Korea, they have country code top-level domain, which is reserved for them on Handshake. But when they claim, they're the only country that will not get a coin reward. They'll not get a reward when they claim, but every other country code gets a reward, gets actual HNS coins. That's because it's illegal. It's illegal to give financial support to North Korea in the United States, and so when they created that, they had to add that into the code. It's in the protocol. But anyway, that was a little side story. But I just wanted to follow up on Noel's thing about NamesCon. I'll be there. NamesCon's fun to go to, and yeah, I think, and I just wanted to, he mentioned Seiger. Mike Seiger is awesome. He's one of the nicest guys, a great guy, and he really helped me out a lot with Park.io at the beginning. And so, yeah, I think he'll be there. So if you go, you should say hi to him. And yeah, it's great to have him interested in Handshake. But yeah, then about the developer funding stuff, I did want to mention that because I feel like it is really important. Right? Impervious is funding Zipkin to work full time, 100% on Handshake core development and open source stuff, and we've been doing that for a little over a year and a half. And Zipkin's invaluable. The whole reason we created Impervious in the first place was so that Zipkin could keep working on Handshake, because if we lose Zipkin, it wouldn't be good. And also, there's another core developer, Nodar, who's funded by DWeb Foundation, but that ended. So he, and he was really helping Zipkin review code, and also just contributing and doing a lot. He knows the code really well. He worked on, I think he worked for Person. He worked on it before mainnet even launched, I think, and so he worked on Bcoin or something like that, which was forked from. But anyway, he knows the code really well, and he wants to work on Handshake, and to lose him was bad because it's like one of two core developers. So I raised, I tried to let everybody know that we got to get some funds together to keep Nodar here. And so I think some people responded. I think they got in touch with him. I don't know what's going on with that, but I do think it's important that we, I think the marketing stuff, all that stuff is great. But we also have to remember that I don't want to, the thing I would worry about is if we spend all our money on marketing and we didn't have core developers, then I'm afraid then that we wouldn't we'd be marketing something that wouldn't be that great of a thing if we didn't have core developers continuing to make it secure and work well and scalable and stuff like that. So
yeah, I know. So yeah, this is the second point on the agenda is the funding. So yeah, just to kind of summarize what you said is, yeah, unfortunately, DWeb Foundation does not have more funds to contribute. They were doing various endeavors. We can also talk about Opera after this, which is also involved with that. But yeah, they've said that they're not able to continue to fund Nodar's time to develop on this soon. So it's a point. Like, I saw somebody in the last session, I think it was Scott Osby, that said, pooling funds together. So that's, of course, one way is people can contribute. Like, just to be clear, like Mike Carson here is founder of Impervious, and he's investing in, of course, products of Impervious, but also the core development of the Handshake blockchain protocol. So thank you for that, Mike. And DWeb has been doing that for quite a long time through like Jahan, Chango, and others. Sorry, my kids are home from school. So basically, we thought we would raise this at this Twitter space. We want the community to know this. I think I did get permission from DWeb Foundation. I could share that. that there's these funding issues on their side. And I think at least Chango said last Twitter space, I think it's pretty clear she's a proponent of forking out money from the reserved funds in some sort, whether it's from the ICANNs only or others, to go towards this type of funding. But there is another side of the argument. There's some very, very serious people in the community that are very active that are against any of that. For various reasons we could discuss, but that is another way of funding is forking money out of various reserved funds. So that's another option. But of course, the easier option is people in the community chipping in. But of course, how many people are you going to throw in like $100 here, or $1,000 or 1,000 HNS? We try to do that with the Flamingo Handshake auctions, but I don't know if it would be stable enough to really support like salaries of core developers and other parts. So it's something we as a community have to face and discuss. So I'm curious, Mike, what are your thoughts of the forking of funds out of like reserved?
Yeah, I personally I'm not into that, just because I don't know. Then who decides where the funds go? And I mean, I think there's already a supply, like there's money supply issue. I think there's some, I mean, the price. So the price of HNS is important for the security of the blockchain, because miners have to make money to pay for their expenses like electricity and stuff, and the more mining, the more secure, especially the more decentralized mining, the more secure the blockchain is. So forking out money, it raises issues like, is it more centralized because who decides where the money goes? And second, yeah, I mean, you're gonna sell more HNS and drive the price down more. So yeah, I don't support it. I mean, at least from the facts that I know now, I'm not a supporter of that. I think we should. I mean, there's big players coming in, like Namecheap. There's people with a lot of money. We're getting momentum from the domain industry, and the domain industry has a lot of money. I don't think that we need to do that. I think we can find other ways. I mean, they should, the reason we are funding core development is, we believe in Handshake, but also like we've invested and we know this is a good investment. It's a good investment to invest in core developers. It's a really good investment. And so, I hope that other I hope that other companies realize that too. If they're investing in Handshake, you should invest in core development, because it'll really help. It'll be good for your investment. If there's no core developers, it's not going to be good for your investment. I mean, Zipkin's done a ton of stuff. You can just look at the commit history. I mean, one thing is he discovered this inflation bug, where you could basically print HNS. If he wasn't working on core development, that would probably not have been discovered. Who knows? It might have been discovered by somebody malicious. They could have. What would be the state of Handshake if something like that was discovered? This is one reason why we need to invest in core developers. So yeah, I'm not a proponent of like forking out coins and giving coins.
Yeah, so it seems like there's quite a few other influential people that are not in favor of the fork for forking out of funds. I know there's a hard fork proposal that Zipkin's proposed, which is about extending the name claim, but the hard fork of taking out even ICANN's funds or other funds, it seems not to be. We need 100% consensus, so everybody should agree. So it seems like there's enough resistance that it won't probably be possible. So so that's that point. So then I guess your suggestion is maybe on this Twitter space people are inspired. I know Scott just rejoined. Sorry for my phone overheating or something, but we were just discussing about fundraising for core development and maybe even marketing. And so Mike, maybe you could give us some ideas. So how does it work? I mean, I think some people have said, can there be more transparency in that? Then, I mean, can't we know like how much? I mean, I guess maybe people don't want to know their salaries to be public, but I mean, I've discussed with some that are like, well, how much has been paid? Why can't we just all know like how much is Impervious paying? How much is DWeb Foundation paying? How much are people paying? Like, is that by showing that, then others would see it and maybe then contribute more openly? I mean, is that a solution, or how much do we need to raise, or I think that's some points that people have brought up that I've talked to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to publicly say how much, one of my employees is getting paid, but I think that's, I mean, how much do you think somebody should be, like, it's,
there's Glassdoor out there. There's basic market rate. The details. Yeah. So I mean, basically, what you're doing is you're loading a negotiation on the front end, and we're all about open source. We're trying to, I think everyone here generally believes in the mission of decentralizing, the internet, and but it's a sensitive subject. I don't know, when the rubber meets the road, the guy's got to negotiate his rate, and it's all based on the budget. I mean, if Thurston Howell III's got $1 billion and he's willing to give it all away, then people are going to get paid more. If people have a limited budget and there's so many factors that goes into what that number is that it's hard to say, this is what you should get for this project. And this is where open source meets privatization. I believe that there's been some very successful companies built on open source projects. Somebody's making money. The executives are getting paid well. Hopefully the coders are getting paid well. And that's fine. That's okay. That's the way that this works. That's the way it evolves. And if we can take Handshake and get it in front of a major corporate entity, it's, it stays decentralized, but yet the advantage of the network being used with, a big company like that helps us all. So it's not so bad to necessarily have, some of these aspects to it remain private, in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, I also don't, it's awkward to share salaries, but I mean, I guess we should say some kind of a goal, Mike. I mean, I guess you seem like the most qualified here, besides DWeb Foundation, to say that. I mean, I'm totally for it. I want to support it. I just don't know how.
Yeah. Well, I think the number one thing, if we can, I mean, I don't even know if Nodar has already moved on to other things, but I think getting Nodar back would be urgent. So, and the way to do that is reach out directly to Nodar, and if you need help with that, I think you could Zipkin or I email us, and we can get you in touch with him. But that's one, and then the other. I mean, there's other developers. People if you go on the Handshake developer Telegram chat, I mean, there's other developers. I'm sure. It's about hiring a developer to work on Handshake stuff. So it's if you wanted to help, I don't know. I don't know if obviously not everybody can hire a developer and pay their salary, but I don't know. The other ways is buy Impervious products. We're supporting it. So that's one way too.
Well, so I'm late. I got cut off, and so have we ever really investigated just sort of a crowdfunding solution, and what that might look like is, paring down the project to the workloads where we could everyone pitches in whatever they could afford to this entity that's very transparent about where the money has come from and where it's going to go, and then work packets that a guy could just come and I'll do that, and this is how much money I'll get for, or hours, or whatever the unit that we could pay him. Have we ever investigated something like that for Handshake?
Well, there's HNS Fund exists. Kiba's founded that, and there was Handshake Jesus. There was definitely funds that went there. Actually, disclosure, I received some Ethereum when that started for my videos and content marketing, which was appreciated. But yeah, he's much more grassroots. Like he would get, actually it exists still. They have a wallet address. Even DWAP Foundation exists. I mean, at Flamingo Handshake every month we send to different those addresses the proceeds, and we transparently post that on flamingohandshake.com's auction results pages. So there's places now that exist for that.
So but even like Kickstarter or that's all kind of insider stuff that you probably know about Handshake if you're finding that stuff. But what about the people that don't know? What if we pair this with the general adoption and marketing to the general masses with some of these bigger platforms that are using crowdfunding in a different way? Packaging some sort of way for just to raise funds, and then finding a consensus way to allocate those funds. Is that what you're referring to? What exists now? But am I wrong in saying that the more I don't know what you want to say, widely known crowdfunding sites, would that be more effective?
Sure.
Or am I just?
I mean, of course that could work. Okay. It's actually we have a router. It's been stuck a little bit. It's a private, another private startup for on a Sentinel blockchain, but it also resolves handshake names and Digitus. And we didn't really even get to the crowdfunding stage. We did a pre-sale, like 150 units or so, and it's a bit stuck. That's a whole separate project. But I was even trying to do that through hardware. I think physical products. Also, there's some people in the audience like Erwin that has the lapel pins. I mean, yeah. Selling, of course you do crowdfunding and just totally goes to maybe you can make it, or but I guess there's nobody that's done really a crowdfunding campaign, but it usually is something that would be an exchange for that. Obviously, I think NFTs would be a great idea. Of course, it's not or TLDs, I guess, or SLDs sales.
Yeah, that's the key, is kind of figuring out how we define what the money's going for. And again, huge transparency so that everyone knows that, a bunch of guys aren't going to just blow it on a party or whatever. But so defining what those work packets are, saying that, we're talking about core developers. What is it that we need to have developed? Just publishing the backlog in a way that says, this will take this many hours, and, trying to get that civilianized to the point where we can do a very basic video that's not meant for technical people, but meant for people who are excited about the prospect of a democratized internet, and get them to pitch in, $10 or $50, very large, small sums of money that will add up and get 100 million people to throw in a little bit of money. But then to your point, I think that figuring out how the money is allocated is something that we should really think about. I think it can be done. I think there's a way of doing it that's equitable and makes sense. Some coders are good, some coders aren't good, but yet taking off some sort of defined work package from that list would then get you, and just pay them in USD, pay them in good old fashioned American dollars or Bitcoin, whatever. But make it kind of more general public than just a basic insider kind of thing.
So,
Now,
okay.
we want. We're just slightly interjecting. Thank you for that. To address all four, just address all four of those points. Now, the developer aspect, because once you get off into that realm of things, that's talent acquisition and talent retention. I mean, you have to retain the talent, and in this case, attracting the talent is going to be the result, and this kind of pairs with the crowdfunding. That's going to be a matter of marketing. And when I say that, I'm not saying for the sake of sales, but for the sake of appeal. Handshake has existed, and so that works in its favor, but then it can also work against it with regard to bringing on new talent, because let's be honest, there's a lot of brilliant minds in the coding space, but they also want to go ahead and be, many of them, not all of them, many of them want to be a part of things that they can kind of get that mainstream reassurance. Despite it being grassroots, they want that reassurance that this is going to work out, that it's going to move forward. And, we're not here to debate that or debate anyone's, desires for their, professional pursuits. But, you have that needs to be marketed. I think the appeal, if you broaden the appeal of Handshake, then that kind of goes hand in hand with being able to crowdfund. If you all notice what we've been doing with Namer Tips, we've been incrementally doing it. Everyone sees the name Namer Tips. So we're leading with the idea of reciprocation, providing a service to the community, and then leaving it to the community to reciprocate, not overextending ourselves, because we have a series of resources that are sitting to the side with regard to IP and projects. So when you guys were referencing, NFT projects, we have things that are sitting in the wings, like as we speak right now. However, we're slowly integrating things like with the whole flying of the flag. As simple as it is, one thing that we noticed is that giving everyone the emphasis or emphasizing every name, it seemed to boost morale. And that was something that no one had to come out of pocket for. And what we did, if you notice on the front page of, our Twitter page, we put name tip. So it was no big post saying that you have to or anything. Our approach is that we're going to do our best to continue to provide things for the community that are going to scale over time. Like, we have the publication that's coming out very soon. So what we wanted to go ahead and do was, get the sentiment of the community to see what final elements could be added to the publication, because when the publication is released, that's going to be one tool that's going to serve as an educational foot, if you will. But it's also going to go ahead and give a lot of the TLD owners an opportunity to go ahead and be seen, heard, and be able to build out their situation. So we believe that crowdfunding can work. Everything that everyone is saying makes perfect sense. But I think that we have to make sure that we understand that bringing the talent in and keeping the talent, and then also crowdfunding and getting people on board, all of that kind of, is that marketing. I know, don't want to seem like I'm rambling on, but the marketing is key, and the marketing pairs with education. And we have to go ahead and be creative and innovative with the way that we approach it, and do our best not to overextend ourselves, but do enough to try to go ahead and move the situation forward in a way that doesn't fall on deaf ears, or, it doesn't go under the radar.
Great. Thank you, Namer Tips. I think just to I think maybe we can go to our third point, Opera, but I think I want to just recap here. There's a short term and a long term of this discussion. The short term is there's two developers that are full-time compensated to develop on the Handshake protocol, Matt Zipkin and Nodar. This is paid for by Impervious and DWeb Foundation. DWeb Foundation is no longer able to fund it, and that means Nodar will no longer be able to be compensated as of next month. So Mike Carson is just alerting us of this loss to the development of the protocol, and is looking for people to chip in to keep that developer on board. So that's the short term. And then the long term, of course, is these discussions of crowdfunding campaigns and marketing campaigns. So that's just so it's clear. And again, this we even go back to the wallet or Unstoppable. That's the difference. Like a VC funded company with gets millions of dollars, puts it into a bank account, hires developers, hires marketing, pays Facebook ads. That's obviously the strength of that versus Handshake, which is us, which is this like decentralized grassroots kind of development where we're just kind of like trying to pitch in funds for various developers, various initiatives. So I think unless there's other points to add, but hopefully maybe somebody on this call or somebody listens to the recording is made aware of this and has maybe funds to chip in. But we should do some things for this. Yeah.
But I think that then again we should then bring up again the point with the stripping of funds for organizations who are intentionally dragging their feet, and maybe like for instance ICANN. I mean, we could maybe notify them that if they do not come on board and claim their shares, that or at least the funds. I mean, of course, no one is trying to take away other reservations from them, but I think it's important that we recognize that some entities are, they are watching and they are intentionally dragging their feet to some degree. I think they're, maybe even trying to sabotage it that way. So I think we could carefully consider and take in proposals from the community and think about how we can, in that case, maybe at least take a portion of those funds and then carefully go through, for instance, as Mike said, that we fund the developers, core developers, and maybe even like we could that we you and me, Michael, we already talked about this, but we could, for instance, if we could list it on Binance or Coinbase, that would maybe even bring in more speculators. The price of the coin would increase, and from that point of view, not only would we have increased the liquidity, but we would also have. Do you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, not only increase the liquidity, but also because speculators would come in, like just short term, we would have more funds to help out the core developers, but also we could the market, because when I was ignorant of the whole crypto space, I was more dealing with traditional derivatives and stocks. So I was not even aware of many of these coins like Handshake. And when I researched the space, I step for step came into the space. But what I wanted to say is, like, we really have to consider identifying identities that maybe even got too much funds, because let's be honest, like for instance, yes, Google, they do not need, I don't know how much they got, but they don't need funds. They are so rich, they can buy the whole coins if they wanted to. So we should really carefully poll the community and receive different proposals, and maybe at least slash step for step some funds, so the entities also get a bit pressure, so they claim earlier rather than later. So that's my point.
Okay, thank you, Maurice. I see somebody just came up. I don't know if you have some points, and then we'll move to point 3.
I just wanted to just add something. So I guess it's just reflecting. I've done marketing in crypto, so a lot of you are looking for devs. Gitcoin is a great resource, and at least in my experience, that's where we always had kind of fish bite. And other places, people don't really look. I think casting a wide net is a great idea, but in terms of roadmap, it's probably premature. So Gitcoin was always good, and I think it also blends with the ethos of the Handshake launch, being that
GitHub accounts with so many followers were given tokens, or sorry, not tokens. I'm not sure.
I think we call it coins here.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the terminology because it gets tricky. I think the other thing is a bit. So something that we had like good success with was actually confrontation. The .wallet episode is you have traction now. Confrontation in crypto is kind of expected, and people don't pay attention to you unless there is a little bit of friction. So it's everybody just embrace it, I guess. That's really all I wanted to say. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for coming on and sharing. I do agree. I think that .wallet last week and going on still is a good. We have much, as Handshake have much more to gain, I think, and I don't want to, I think it's to the detriment of the other party to defend it. But yeah, Gitcoin, I do believe Kiba, Kiba's great. I think Kiba did get Gitcoin with the HNS fund, and about over a year ago, you really set up a lot of those foundations with the HNS fund, which is a Discord as well, and many developers are active in that, I guess let's say community or segment of the Handshake ecosystem. But
yeah, actually, another thing I forgot is the Lobster DAO, like job listing thing. That's a good place to post because there's people watching that can help you pull off what you need.
All right. Thank you, Kitch. I'm taking some notes, and this is recorded and will be shared. Okay, so I think, of course, we can talk a lot about fundraising, but actually the third point is similar, but the Opera browser integration. I did ask Chango at DWeb Foundation if I was allowed to share this. I've gotten in trouble over the last couple of years sharing about the Brave discussions. So DWeb Foundation has been working. It's a self-organized foundation. It's not the official Handshake Foundation, but they are Handshake fans. Chango, Jahan. There's some others. You can look at their website. And one of their roles or their purposes is to help with browser integrations and exchange listings. So they've been talking to Opera, and I believe the contract is with DWeb Foundation to Opera. And, a lot of you saw the PR release from Opera around the very end of December about supporting Handshake, and we've seen updates over the last couple of months. And I don't have the contract, but I'm told it's $150,000 US. We put all the proceeds we raised instead of for other funds or initiatives to at the Flamingo Handshake auction to this Opera integration, and others have been chipping in. Namecheap, I think, put in $22,000 US of their own funds to this, but she told me I could share, but I think there was some misunderstandings also with others that were contributing. And, I think she's personally putting in her own funds to cover the difference. And I think Jahan Chu is also covering in the tune of I think $20,000 to $40,000 US each. I guess they have a contractual commitment to pay the Opera browser of the $150,000. So they're just paying that and, take the Namecheap and the other proceeds from the auctions and other people's donations. So she's not too happy about that, to just say that. But it should be happening. Seems like it's happening. Like the payment is probably the last piece, and it's mid July right now as we do this, and that will be done. But I know some people have mixed feelings about paying browsers and paying. A lot of people think like, why do we need to pay? They should just love Handshake and just adopt Handshake. But I just want to bring this point up. So, I don't know if Mike, you have points on this, or I thought the community should know that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it's a marketing adoption play. I guess it's trying to get I don't know that much about it, but to me it seems like, and maybe you know more, but it's like trying to have the big announcement. Opera supports Handshake, and hopefully, and then like maybe that would drive adoption, or maybe the Opera users would some of them might adopt Handshake because now it's supported. But I the one thing I do know is it wouldn't support Dane. So even if it supported Handshake, it wouldn't support HTTPS. So it'd be unsecured sites, and I think it goes through. I could be wrong about this, but I thought it just goes through like a resolver, like HNS2 or whatever. That so it. I'm not sure if it even uses like HNSD.
I think Zip can. I don't think he's in this session right now, but I believe he says on a single HSD resolver, HNSD resolver. It's not an HNS.2, but it's on a resolver, but it's on a single resolver. I think is what he told me.
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but I believe.
I mean, it's probably good. Whatever. It's good. Like, I think it would be good to do these things. I mean, is it worth the cost to me? No, not at all. I mean, because it's like really expensive, and I'd rather hire developers, but that's where I come from. And I think maybe there's better marketing things than trying to get Opera. But hey, if any way anybody can help, I'm for that. But I mean, like, it's just speaking from a technological, point of view, and I am biased, I guess, because it's our browser, but Beacon web browsers it'll be way better for viewing Handshake names, because it does it all securely and, uses SNSD and stuff like that. But yeah.
I understand. Yeah, of course, yeah, I mean, it's totally free too, right? So impervious.com/beacon, you can download the browser. It's on web, iOS for sure, and I haven't tried it. I don't know if it's on Android, but definitely on web and iOS. But yeah, so I mean, here's the other part that I'm a little bit nervous about, and I think I clarified with Chango, is it's not like a lifetime payment, one-time payment. I think there's going to be a future payments on Opera's next version that we would need to pay to continue to keep the integration, I think. I haven't seen the contract. And there was another issue with Brave browser last year. Brave browser, again, I'm like kind of like, I guess some people like think I'm like a leak, but I think it's worth the community hearing these things. But with the Brave, I know people on Brave denied what I was told, but we wanted a considerable amount of more money, not because of integration, but because of Dane or SSL. It seems like to get security of Handshake on these browsers is a big cost or time to make. So it's easier and cheaper to do non-SSL integration on a browser like Chrome, Firefox, Opera, Brave than just non-SSL resolver integration, which seems like what's being done with Opera, but it still costs $150,000, and it's only for the first, this current version. So I'm afraid to know how much it will cost after to keep that. So anyway, I just thought I would share this, left it for the end, and yeah.
I mean, just go ahead.
I wanted to agree with Mike on this because I think, we already, the Beacon browser, like I have tested it, and it's already a Chromium based, so you have all the things on it. Plus, you can. We have already access to all the Handshake domains, so I don't think really is it really worth it? Like, what are we trying to achieve with paying huge sums of money to like Brave or Opera? Just so we can then similar to UD, then shout out, oh look, these browsers are supporting supporting Handshake, because I think the people who really discover Handshake, they really only take 5 minutes to think about its values, its goals. They will quite naturally. It was for me really. I only needed like 5 or 10 minutes reading to understand. Whoa, this is really one of the few blockchain or crypto projects which has really like fascinating goals, like freeing the internet, making opening up the internet. So maybe we should really rethink where we are spending the funds. And maybe we should, from my thinking, I think listing. We should really maybe consider trying to list HNS on Binance or Coinbase because. It sounds. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I wouldn't underestimate the power of drawing in people. Even if they are in the first phase only speculators, but I think people, when they make an investment and they discover Handshake, they will not, like most of me, a percentage or a fraction of those speculators, they will turn into believers, because they will understand the fundamentals of the project, and from there on, I think not only. Although I really don't care much about the price of the coin itself, I think this could be a great catalyst to not only pay, gaining more money so we can pay core developers, but also we gain liquidity, more exposure. So
sure. You can apply for this, Morbius. You can go to Binance website yourself. You can fill out the form. And you can submit a request to list Handshake. Who else would do it? Why would I can't. You're the same as me.
Yeah, okay. I will try to do it. But I just really I'm agreeing with Mike, because I think this is like the Beacon browser is a Chromium browser. It's a great browser. You can, if you like, most of the people, unfortunately, in this phase of the crypto and blockchain phase of development, most of them are speculators, and if we don't have enough people who really understand the fundamentals and why Handshake is such a great project, then it really doesn't matter if we have working it on Opera or working it on Brave, because at the end of the day, someone who really builds some project on Handshake, they can already access it in many different ways. And the first thing I did is like a 5-second change of maybe before I got the Beacon browser, you can change your DNS settings and stuff. So from my point of view, I wanted to agree with Mike and support Mike's position. And maybe just my 5 cents is, let's rethink where we are spending our funds.
Okay, Kitch just came back up.
I have a general kind of inquiry comment for the group, if anyone has any insight. I find the tokenomics to be very vague and ambiguous in a way, and I to echo the concerns with forking reserved funds out in some kind of a way, I think that is going to scream horror to investors in the market. But is there? Talking about getting on exchanges is. The reality of the situation is that they're going to want a very large bag for a very good valuation, and my feeling is that there's just not the liquidity to provide for that right now. If a lot's going into Namebase to supply liquidity there, there's a logistical impasse. If anyone has any.
The idea is Satoshi, Nakamoto, he didn't apply to Binance. You know what I'm saying? So I've been in various groups with this Handshake community for a long time, and I'm seeing there's we're trying to be like Bitcoin. Bitcoin didn't apply to be listed on Coinbase. They just listed it. You understand? There is no. We're trying to be we're not like these normal shit coins that have like make up a coin and give themselves 1 billion tokens and then give Binance 100 million. We don't have that here, you know. So that's just a challenge. That's the beautiful thing. I love it, but it's just that's the reality. We're not like, if you fill out the Binance form, Morbius, you're gonna have to put your name. You're gonna have to say you're a founder of the blockchain, that you have a foundation that represents the foundation. You have a shitload of tokens you're gonna give to see whatever this guy's name on Twitter. That dude, that Chinese guy, you're gonna have to say, yes, I will give you a shitload of money. That's what you got to do. And most shit coins now do that. Now that's what they do.
Are there market makers? Like, is there a fund or anything that has the ability to be a market maker though? Because you're just not going to have liquidity.
I mean,
I think Namebase. I don't know. Yeah. All I know. I think. Yeah. I don't know. The little I know, Namebase was doing them. They hired some market makers to do something to help with that, but yeah, I don't know that much about it. But the one thing, I mean, I agree with Michael. Yeah, we want to be like Bitcoin, but I agree with Kitch. Like, we're not Bitcoin because we have a huge airdrop and we're giving away coin rewards and stuff like that. Bitcoin didn't do that, and that messes up. I mean, to me, it does make things vague. It makes things vague, and I think maybe who knows? Maybe we would have been listed on some exchanges if we didn't have like all this like huge pre-mine and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely think there's things that could be improved on that end. But yeah, I mean, just to give you guys some insight on in what our strategy is at Impervious is like, first we got to get it easy to view Handshake sites and also securely. You need to have secure, like to do logins and anything like that. You have to have HTTPS. So we did the Beacon browser. So we got that. That's step one. Now step two is the strategy that we're trying is, we got to find the killer app. We got to find a way to build a site, something on Handshake, build something on Handshake that you can't do elsewhere. You can do way better on Handshake. And then once people come to that, you know, build something that's really cool. And when people come over to try it out, they're like, wow, I don't lose anything. When I'm browsing with Beacon, I don't lose anything, but I gain all this. And then, you know, that'll bring a huge group over, like some app like that. And then, you know, it's like it's about building these cool things on Handshake, building a killer app and bringing people over slowly and more and slowly. And I think that will solve a lot of, you know, I think that'll help with a lot of the, you know, marketing adoption and probably help with we and stuff, like getting on exchanges and all that stuff as it gets to be taken more seriously. And I think it, you know, from a domainer, like we have with my other company, we have ICANN accredited registrars, and you know, I was in the domain industry, like I was in the ICANN world before this, and like I clearly see momentum coming in this direction. I mean, it's obvious, like Namecheap, pork bun, like, and ICANN writing papers about it. Like, there's clearly momentum coming this way, and like Unstoppable is scared now. I mean, there's definitely, I feel the momentum coming. It's just we just gotta find the killer app, I think. That's what I'm trying to do now.
Agreed. No, I'm on the same page. I've always thought that too. Like, if there's got to be a reason, and then when there's a good killer app, then Opera will want it because they'll want that app to work on their browser, and Brave will want it because they'll want that app to work on their browser, rather than we need to pay and bribe them money to have our websites open on their browser. So yeah, I agree too.
I think what could also, like, lately I have been thinking about, like, if you like ICANN itself, like, just from, I think they should really rethink their position on Handshake and embrace it, because like not only does it remove much of the overhead they themselves have, but also like there are many aspects which are beneficial for them, not only financially but from an organizational point of view. So maybe like if you Mike, if you have contacts there, and you maybe you could talk to some people that that would be great.
Yeah, the people I know in ICANN, this is the view I have of ICANN. It's not so much like this enemy. It's more like this slow, giant, like slow-moving thing that cannot accomplish anything anymore. And one example is, I think, I forget exactly, .xxx was a new GTLD that was going to be launched, but it was delayed for years because there was committees meeting on it, and they were worried that it would bring porn to the internet, introduce porn to the internet, and it's delayed for years. And another example is .web is a TLD that it's been delayed. Over 10 years, it's been delayed because it's going back and forth, all this stuff. So it's just this. My perspective on it now, it's not like this evil organization is just like this thing that is just can't do anything, and they will not do anything with Handshake. They to claim their reward on Handshake, they'd have to go through all these committees, they'd have to go through all these lawyers. It would take forever. They're never going to do it. And that's the reason why I love Handshake. It's we got to move around this huge giant obstacle, which is stifling the internet and blocking freedom. So, yeah.
Awesome. That's great. We're at the 2-hour mark now. I feel like maybe that's a good and you're that point right there. I love that. That sounds like a great way to almost start to wrap up. I mean, I know it's late for you, Mike, but I think this was a fascinating conversation. Maybe if there's last points or words, maybe a few more minutes if needed. But I feel like we kind of got through at least the points that we had, and I hope this was helpful for everybody.
Yes, just a second. Mike made a very good point about the killer app, and we'll second that with great content, because it takes time to put together that great app, and in the interim, in the meantime, some great content, some exclusive content that's only available through the Beacon browser, through Handshake exclusively. And the content creator can, make a commitment that this content is not going to be made elsewhere, and maybe even commit to, just like, when people, when they partner with networks to do shows, they partner for a certain set of seasons. So maybe something along those lines could be established with regard to, the Beacon browser and Handshake, creators committing to creating for the sake of their content or anything that they create being made available through the browser and exclusively for this window of time, which allows room to market and say, hey, this is over here, because we all know that, content, it does expire, it doesn't age well, but that's based on what type of content it is. So while you're in the midst of providing that unique content coming from a creator, the content stays fresh. In the meantime, the great app is being built. And maybe it can even be a situation where that great content somehow bridges into the app. So that's the transition of the audience from here into that particular angle, and it just continues on from there.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, we just need that. Yeah, I've been talking to some of my friends in the community too, and we all have the same. It just needs some when there's that killer app, then or the other side of it, when the Web 2 starts just really highly filtering and blocking, and that's the other side, right, is when the current internet becomes almost unusable. All right, well, I think maybe we can start to wrap up. But 2 hours I think is a good target for these sessions, and I think, Mike, monthly we're trying to do these?
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Yeah, thanks for doing this, Mike.
Yeah, sorry about the cutoff in the middle there, but I don't know. I think it was I hotspot this, and my daughter was using it, and I think that's what did it. She was like, what? complaining when it reset. I think that overheated my phone. So I'll just won't do that next time. All right. Well, thanks everybody. This will be recorded. We of course will go on Twitter itself, but I also extract it. Also, Terra Spaces. I think we lost them on the switch over, but they were supporting us and recorded it. So we'll try our best to share all the different ways you can review these after. All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Ann, Morbius, Kitch, yeah, everyone, Namer Tips, Noel, and yeah, let's just keep pushing.
Sounds good.
Cheers.